One night I was in a hostel of 14 people and you could smell everybody in there. And I go to sleep and then I think, wow, it's raining in Malta. It doesn't happen too often. And I kind of woke up a little bit more and go, wait a minute, is there a leak somewhere? And looked around and noticed there was a guy taking a piss in the corner of the hostel room. Italian transport can be quite chaotic. There can be 3 buses with the same number on it that go different directions.
Really? So you've moved to Malta.
Yeah.
You're still staying in Gozo?
Yeah, I do. I'm by the sea. The sun's out most times. Lifestyle's pretty easy. I don't actually travel as much as I used to do. It doesn't necessarily drag me to an airport as much as I used to, compared to being in England and wanting to go to a Cannes festival or somewhere a little bit more sunny.
Hey, Tommy. Thanks for coming in. I have kept you in suspension in terms of what this is all about. Let me walk you through. So quite a few of our viewers who is always interested to learn in how they can get better deals on the places they stay. So it can be Airbnb, booking.com, whichever process you follow. It can be some hotel that you have relationship with and you just give them a call and just show up and they kind of accommodate you. Or it can be a completely different site, or it can be a completely different process. It can be a traveling agency. But the point being, we're trying to find out from constant travelers or people who travels a lot like you, of what they go through when they plan a trip and how they're going about booking it. One of my businesses are doing Airbnbs for others. So this kind of helps the traveler community or people who travels a lot to the hosts, because it gives them kind of insight into how they should be setting up their Airbnbs. So that's the reason why I wanted to talk to you about today.
Okay. I don't actually travel as much as I used to do, mainly because I live in a nice place and most places are as nice. I'm by the sea, the sun's out most times, lifestyle's pretty easy. It doesn't necessarily drag me to an airport as much as I used to, compared to being in England and wanting to go to a Cannes festival or somewhere a little bit more sunny. So I've been cozy.
So this is for our viewers, right? So you've moved to Malta.
Yeah.
You're still staying in Gozo?
Yeah. I do.
And Gozo is a small island of Malta. Beautiful place. Right. I've been there. I loved it. So talk me through in terms of how you decided on Gozo, probably we can talk about a recent trip you've done and how you went about, say, for example, booking a place.
Sure. Let's do the recent trip. So I had to meet a client in Italy, Sicily, and the nearest airport to that is Catania, but they were meeting in Syracuse. For whatever reason, the flights in Italy can be quite strange. They can either be at the crack of dawn or they can be at, middle at night. Well, not middle at night, but very, very late. So you have to stay overnight. So I ended up staying in an Airbnb in Catania when I landed, and then getting another Airbnb for a couple of days when I was in Syracuse, about an hour away after taking the bus from the airport.
I think I've heard of quite a few of these kind of trips before, Tommy. So they have early morning and late night flights. It's probably because a lot of people commute in and out of the city before or after office hours, right? So probably that's the reason why they have that kind of scheduling with the planes.
I kind of see the logic. If you live in Milan and you want to visit Sicily and it's on business, why on earth would you drive God knows how many 100 miles, and then get the ferry? Flight is an hour, probably. The flight between Malta and Sicily was the shortest flight I've ever been on. I didn't even finish a TV episode before they wandered over and told me to slap my laptop down again.
It's just across Mediterranean, right?
Yeah, it was such a tiny trip. I spent longer getting off the plane than I did on it.
Isn't there a ferry service between Malta and Italy?
Why would any person pay 100 or so, whatever it is, 80, 67 for a much longer trip when they can get a flight and be there in 25 minutes and it costs 15 euros?
It's just the fun of it, probably. I haven't seen the sea for a while, so for me, your perspective, my perspective will differ, right? Because you use ferry service between Gozo and Malta all the time, whereas I'll be like a wide-eyed wonder situation, right? So you arrived in Italy. How did you go about figuring out where to stay? I'll tell you what the challenges I've come across so far. If it's a new place, if it's a small place, it's always a bit tricky one, right? So I always find it fascinating when people gives me kind of new insight. So what do you usually look for? I mean, when you go for these kind of business trips, and these are quick ones, right?
They're not too many days, that's for certain. I am from Yorkshire, so no matter what I earn, I will always be looking at cost. And that's not necessarily a healthy thing, but that's ingrained in my mindset. First is I will set a price. I want it to be X amount of distance from the airport. I don't want to be traveling hours. And logistics of getting there are important. Italian transport can be quite chaotic. There can be 3 buses with the same number on it that go different directions.
Really?
Yeah, I've had that. I was sat waiting in Catania for a bus that eventually came and took me in the 30 minutes late. 2 of them didn't come. The last one took me the wrong way. Also, what am I living in? what reviews are like. The main thing, cleanliness. I don't want to be living in somewhere that's going to freak me out. I also these days don't share. Since COVID, I don't do bunk beds. I don't do hostels. You never know where people have been or what they're up to. And that's just my cautions. I've had some really weird experiences with shared owner Airbnbs. I got there once and it was a bit late, but you could tell there was a family there. There was, kids, a dog. And for me, I can't go into a house that other people are sharing. It feels like I'm stepping on their toes. It's distracting. It's just weird and I don't do it.
But did it not say on the listing that it's a shared accommodation?
Yeah, I've done it. It says shared. I get it. I did it. I don't do it anymore.
Okay.
I need my space. I need to know that, like, if a plate drops at the wrong hour, that no one's going to go crackers. You know what I mean? And that you don't know what's going to happen when you're on business trips.
Yeah. Okay, tell me one of your funniest experiences, probably.
There's a few. In my early days of coming back and forth to Malta, before I was a person who lived here, I would be staying in hostels quite a lot when that was a bit more fun and adventurous. And I was used to it. And one night I was in a hostel of 14 people and you could smell everybody in there. And I go to sleep and it's not easy to sleep in hostels. There's too much going on, people coming and going. I wake up, I hear somebody having a fight or an argument. It's a guy, he's having a fight with himself in his sleep. Think nothing, it's another hostel story. Go to sleep. And then I think, wow, it's raining in Malta. It doesn't happen too often. And I kind of woke up a little bit more and go, wait a minute, is there a leak somewhere? And looked around and noticed there was a guy taking a piss in the corner of the hostel room. And at some point, 2 bouncers came in, took him away. God knows, I hope he put his thing in his pants by that point. And the hostel took a 50 quid deposit and then threw him out. I don't know if the hostel really saw sense in chucking it away its reputation for 50 quid, but that's what it did. And after that, I said, I'm really sorry. As nice as this place is, my body says can't do it. Can I take the refund? And they give me a voucher towards my next stays.
How has your preference changed over time?
My focus is quite intense on business now. If things pull me away, I don't get stuff done and clients wait on their work, and that doesn't do my reputation any good. And it's okay when you didn't have a bunch of clients waiting on you. Things do drain your mental faculties. If you're walking around late hours looking for your Airbnb, you get in at 1 a.m. It's fun when you don't owe anything to anybody. It's a laugh. But when you owe stuff to people, that's a problem because that means you don't get something done for another half day, whatever. So in terms of making business run smoothly, shenanigans with Airbnbs and getting wandering lost and distracting things going on and getting stressed about whatever people are doing in shared accommodation while you're abroad isn't my cup of tea. Travel itself is a distraction from business. I know that I have to write off a certain amount of hours or days if I do it, and it has to be a really good reason, to the point where one of my ambitions is to say, why don't you come see us? It's nice enough here. Here's your plane ticket,
Mm-hmm.
Or at the very least, to be honest, I work with a lot of clients that fly over and it's not a big deal anyway,
Yeah.
So that's
No, I completely get it. I mean, traveling by itself is a distraction, and having a shenanigan on top doesn't actually help sometimes. No. I guess Airbnb fits in my bill when I'm traveling with a family, when I need a bit of a residential kind of setup. But when I'm traveling, probably you're right. I look more at hotels and booking.com than Airbnbs. Are there any kind of challenging situation you might have come across when you were staying somewhere else?
Finding the place. I came to Gozo 5 years ago on a holiday. I didn't expect to be living it, and I could list them all. The place was very poorly listed in terms of where to find it. And I think that trips a lot of people doing Airbnb journeys up. You say it's on the street. Great. Can you tell me more details? Oh, it's just this store, whatever. A lot of people need to send visuals. If you get somebody's WhatsApp and you just tell them it's this address, they're going to struggle a lot of the time. A lot of places do not come with easy ways to find them. You end up asking locals, where is it? A lot of the time you don't speak that language. You need pictures.
Because you travel a lot, when you go to the BNI conferences, how do you go about filtering where you want to stay?
I treat everything like I'm budgeting properly. Otherwise, I won't be running a business properly. So if somewhere is 30 minutes away in the day, that might be well too much, because something like a BNI conference, you're there early, you should be, and you leave late. It's 4 days of, noon till night networking. And if you don't stay for all of it, you're wasting it. That means you don't want to be spending an hour on travel a day. If you're in 15 minutes and you've traveled, it might be worth getting a taxi, get in the measure of expense, what else you've put towards it, but not too far. And usually there is somewhere within reasonable distance of that hotel